Now there aren't many dry flies that use a Mylar tinsel for a body. Ray Bergman did have one. He called it his RB multicolor variant. That was a pretty fun tie. I'll link to the video at the end of this one. But it got me wondering, why aren't there more dry flies tied in this style? And one hypothesis is that a lot of flyers probably think that a Mylar body is going to make the fly too heavy and it's not going to be a very good dry fly. And there's probably some truth to that. But I also think that all it would take to keep a Mylar body dry fly floating is a couple extra Hackle wraps and then maybe some type of buoyant material for a wing, say a deer body hair or a calftail. So that is what I did with this experimental dry fly, a Mylar body with a calftail wing and then a couple extra wraps of a white dry fly hackle. And I decided to call this thing the Metallic Mayfly, as it does have the general profile of a mayfly, but make no mistake, this thing is 100% an attractor pattern. And I did get a chance to try this out on the Savage River this weekend, and I would like to say that I caught a half a dozen trophy fish with it, but alas, that wasn't the case. But it did fool a couple, so stick around after the tie if you want to see me fishing this thing on the Savage River this weekend. So there it is in my vise, what I decided about 5 minutes ago to call my Metallic Mayfly. Now, I don't know what sizes would be best for this. I'm going on a size 14. This is a 1 extra long barbless dry fly hook, but I think anywhere 12 to 16 would probably be fine. And I'm going to use some white thread. This is a 70 denier. I think black thread would be fine as well, because really the only part of thread you see is going to be at the head. And for the tail, I'm just going to use some barbs from white rooster feather. And I'm not going to use a lot, maybe 8 or 10 here. Let's catch this in the back. And maybe a body length, I think that's going to be fine right there. Don't worry if you have any curlies right here. We do have a fairly thick body, so go ahead and park your thread about 1/4 of the way back here. Now take a small tuft of calftail and put it in your stacker. And one tip here, open this up with the tips going forward. Let's see if that's stacked okay. I think that's close enough. That way you can minimize how many times you have to swap hands with it. So there we go, that's going to be our calftail. I'm going to spin my thread clockwise just to cord it up a little bit and immediately go into some fairly tight wraps right here. Just try not to let it spin around the hook on you. So several wraps going back, and what I do here, I lift the back end of this calftail up about 30 or 45 degrees, put my scissors in here parallel to the hook, and then just cut it fairly close. And if you're lucky, you'll get a little bit of a taper there. So let's go ahead and put some loose wraps going back and see if this is a little bit of a taper. I think it is, it's okay. Now take our thread back up here. Now let's prop this wing up. Several wraps up in front of it, just to kind of prop it up about 90 degrees. And what I will do, often on a calftail fly like this, I'll put a wrap just around the hair, wrap or two even, almost like I was doing a parachute post, just to get them a little bit more together. Now if you were going to split them, now would be the time to do that, and you probably wouldn't need to put a wrap just around them. But I think that's an extra step that is not all that necessary. Now here's the unique part of this fly, just some Mylar tinsel. And this is I think size 16. So it probably equates to a medium. And I'm gonna catch it in up front, and then take it all the way to the back where I'm gonna make that first wrap, and then park my thread up here a little bit behind the wing, because I want about, at least 3 wraps of Hackle behind that wing, and then maybe 2 or 3 up in front of it. So I'm going to just wrap these one right in front of the other, touch and turns going all the way up so that I have a solid metallic looking body. And 2 or 3 tight wraps there, snip this excess. Now grab a dry fly hackle and pick one that's going to give you a fiber length, 1 to 1.5 times the hook gap. I think that's pretty close right there. So catch it in a little bit behind the wing. Just envision getting at least 3 wraps back here behind the wing. I'm going to leave that stem in as I wrap forward, and then leave my thread up front, snip this excess. Now let's just wrap this hackle, see how it turns out. I think that was 4 behind it. Let's try to do maybe 3 in front. Okay, that's 3, and I'm getting a little close to my eye, but I think we're going to be fine. I shouldn't be crowding it too much. A couple of wraps, 2 or 3 to secure this. Yeah, I'm a little close to the eye, but we're going to be fine. So let's just pull all this back and then make our little head here. Now what you can do before you let go of this, if you want, it's probably not that big a deal. Just try to snip any of these that you didn't get right there. And I think we're going to be fine. We've got some room for a 4-turn whip finish here. Now let's take a look, see if we have any cleanup. Obviously we've got this long excess feather right here, and maybe a few barbs sticking out. But otherwise, I think we got a fishable fly. So that's it, my friends. I appreciate you watching. Stick around if you want to see a couple of minutes of me fishing this thing on the Savage River this weekend. Good afternoon from Western Maryland on the beautiful Savage River. It's mid-afternoon. I am putting in my first stop of the day is the Whitewater campsites just upstream of the Garrett Bridge. And I'm going to be trying some pretty much experimental flies today. I only brought 1 box, and there's not a fly in this box that has a name. So I'm going to start on top with some dry flies. First one I'm going with is, it's just a white body. It's got a white calftail wing, white hackle, white tail, but it's got a silver Mylar body, which I've had variations of this thing do okay for me on bright sunny days. And I'm not sure if you can tell back behind me, but it's pretty bright today. Mid-80s temperature, water's fine, but sun is in and out, and when it's out, it is very bright. So I'm going to start with this little stretch here behind me. We'll see if we can't pull anything out of here. There's one. Look at that. Look at that. All right. He's decent. Maybe. Felt bigger than he was. Wow. Pretty. He is 8-inch little brookie. So that was the first of 2 fish I ended up getting with this thing in a couple hours on the river. The other was a small brown trout, about the same size. And I know a couple of small fish on an experimental dry fly doesn't necessarily mean we have a winner here. But at least it didn't scare the fish off. And it does mean that I'll probably move a couple of these over from my experimental fly box to my regular dry fly box and give it a couple more tests. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the pattern. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in a couple of days.